Hey, what it is, it's your boy K Murray died in between Sozo's on. Hey, let me tell you something, man. If you're not listening to 520 Collective Podcast and Solomon's Porch Podcast, bruh, something wrong. But look here, be sure to check out my latest album, Here He Is, on all streaming platforms. But also be sure to check out the new content and the latest things on tour on my artist page on Facebook. That's K.MurrayGME. I love y'all. God bless y'all. You already know what it is. 150.
That's gonna be a problem. That's gonna be a problem.
520 Collective, where music meets ministry and the indie artist takes center stage.
Take a ride through my old town. Old me, old Sean, might need boats, cry oceans. Here float down my old child fear. So broke, no hope round here. Been trying to cope since like 01. Better slow down for your cosign. You like ocean.
What's up? Welcome to this very special episode of 520 Collective Podcast. We are in the field on the Trackstars Podcasting Network. And you know what it is, 520 Collective. It is where music meets ministry and the indie artist takes center stage. I am Eric Boston, and I'm with my guy, Nate Shelton. What's going on, man?
Hey, how's it going? Another podcast coming up in the books.
Yeah, man, and of course we got the special edition of the podcast this episode. I'm excited. Hopefully we do this justice, man, but I think it's something that is important, so I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah, man. Well, before we get too deep into it, Nate, why don't you let people know where they follow you, where they hit you up?
Well, you can find me at Twitter at IM_NateDog. That's where I try to keep up with all the latest in CHH, new music, focus on all our indie artist friends out there and promote their music, and overall, general, just have some fun out there as well. So you can follow me there and keep you up to date with what's going on.
For sure, guys. And if you want to hit me up, I'm on Twitter as well. It is at Eric Boston 3. It's at Eric Boston and the number 3. Love to talk to you. And before we tell you what is so special about this episode, just want to give a couple of shout outs. The podcast has a couple of new partners that we are going to be featured on, and those partners are Throne Connections Bridging Entertainment Network. And then we're also partnering up with James Media LLC. So keep an eye out for news coming on that front. They are going to be airing the podcast. We're going to be doing some cross promotion, a lot of good stuff. So excited to have those new partners. So shout out to them. But Nate, the last month, I mean, it feels like it's been so much longer than a month since the last podcast, man, because there's been so much stuff that's happened. Not only in CHH, but in the world as a whole, man. And one of those things that happened was the passing of one of CHH's legends, right? I mean, he was part of the Gospel Gangsters, and we're talking about Mr. Solo. He passed away, and that got us to thinking, man, like, just looking at some of the responses and stuff. It's like, man, we need to do maybe a little bit better job of honoring those veterans that started off the early days of the genre, and so we wanted to do that with this episode and give them just our appreciation, and so that starts with the sad news, but we're going to try to make it as positive as we can here, Nate. But all kind of rolling with the passing of Mr. Solo. And we got a couple people before we really jump into the discussion that wanted to help us out, weigh in, and give us their thoughts on, just what Solo meant to Christian hip hop. So let's take a listen to that real quick.
Yo, this your man right here, DJ I Rock Jesus. And what I can say about Solo, man, from the Gospel Gangsters, I mean, I didn't know him personally. I met him a couple of times and talked to him. And just by talking to him, he was definitely a humble brother. You feel me? He loved God with all his heart, man. And that brother has some great wisdom to word, share with me about some certain stuff. And, you know, he's definitely going to be missed. He played an incredible role for CHH. And so I know where he's at. A lot of times we say rest in peace, but I'm saying rest in heaven, because that's exactly where my man at. So Solo, brother, definitely missed you, man. And you're going to be missed. You're going to be missed. Definitely going to be missed. But right now, you're right where we want to be. All right? So this I can say about him. He definitely was a humble brother, and he was definitely a great man of God, you know? All right, peace.
What's good, everybody? This is DJ Jeremiah, the Track Stars, giving a big shout out to 520 Collective for doing this tribute for the late, great Mr. Solo of the Gospel Gangsters. What can I say about the Gospel Gangsters, man? They're a pioneering group out of LA, man, who decided to leave the gang-banging lifestyle and get saved and serve Christ through hip-hop music. God used them to speak to the streets, man. And they were also an alternative for kids who were into Dr. Dre, Snoop, Dog Pound, and other West Coast acts. I got a little story to tell, man. In the early 2000s, a friend of mine at the time asked me to help them pass out flyers for the Gospel Gangsters because their album, The Exodus, just released and they needed help. I said, sure, no problem, man. And so we're downtown Atlanta because this was the time of Mega Fest, and we're passing out flyers. They were also at a booth, and they were signing autographs, talking to their fans. And also, man, after that event, they helped feed us, and they signed our shirts because we were wearing shirts with the Exodus on it, man. And it was just a fun time, man. So I appreciate that moment of time that I had a chance to spend with Mr. Solo and Chili Baby. So, man, I really believe Mr. Solo will be truly missed, and I hope us as a community can help his family by giving to his GoFundMe and also buying their albums and streaming their music to help his family out. Thanks again for doing this, 520. This is DJ Jeremiah of the Track Stars, and I'm out.
All right. Shout out to DJ Jeremiah and DJ iRock Jesus for giving us their thoughts on Solo and what he meant, you know, to the CHH space and what he did for it. Nate, what, you know, I think you and I were both talking, and we both have some thoughts on Solo and the Gospel Gangsters in general. Why don't you start with just with your side of it, man? Like how did Mr. Solo and the Gospel Gangsters impact you as a fan of CHH?
Well, as a fan, the Gospel Gangsters, Mr. Solo, obviously the Gospel Gangsters as a whole, for me, when I discovered them, this was late 90s, and I happened to, you know, be at a bookstore, and, you know, how, you know, you're younger, looking through the music, trying to find that one, you know, hip-hop album that might really catch your eye, and stumbled across them. And back then you could listen to the CDs before you bought them to see if you liked it, at least where I was at. I don't know about you personally. So listened to it, I was like, man, this sounds like a lot of the mainstream stuff out there. And, you know, got it, listened to it. And Gospel Gangsters were the first, and I've heard this from multiple other people too, but the first CHH group that you felt comfortable listening around your friends and that weren't in church or go to church or whatever. They accepted. I know a couple of my friends were like, this is pretty cool. And the content was still, obviously, you know, they're talking about scripture-based stuff, but the way they did it was acceptable for non-church people because they're hearing stuff that is acceptable in the mainstream, but, you know, kind of took them back. You know, I grew up originally when I first discovered CHH and the Christian hip hop. Pettidee was the first real group that I listened to quite a bit. Preachers in Disguise, and of course, you know, for me as a kid growing up, I can't listen to that around with friends because it was so church theologically based, and like, oh, you listen to the Preachers in Disguise, well, that's kind of corny. And so the Gospel Gangsters were the first real group that, you know, was kind of cool to listen to. You could listen to with your friends, and everybody had their ears open to it.
Yeah, man. I think you and I both had similar experiences, and you hit on a lot of things. I mean, obviously, we're going to kind of talk about just some of those general experiences with CHH, but before we do that, I'll definitely want to talk about Solo for a minute. For me personally, I mean, I was aware of Gospel Gangsters, but I did not. I wouldn't say I was necessarily a huge fan's not the right word, because I liked and appreciated what they did, because like you said, they sounded like the mainstream. They sounded like the stuff I was listening to at the time, which was the West Coast, the G-Funk, what Death Row and Ice Cube and West Side Connection, those types of artists were doing. So the sound was familiar and I appreciated it. And man, Solo was a good rapper, man. I mean, he was a strong lyricist. His flow was good. I think he could match up with the mainstream, which at that time, that was one of Christian hip hop's biggest hurdles to get over, was being able to match up with what was coming out of the mainstream. And he was able to do that, but as far as me personally, the only album from Gospel Gangsters that I actually had was I Can See Clearly Now. But dude, that title track, it hooked me. I mean, it's one of my favorite all-time CHH tracks. I mean, I dare someone to listen to that and tell me that, that it's not good, because I mean, a catchy hook, the verses are great, the production is bouncy and it gets you moving. So, that for me, that was, my experience with Mr. Solo and with Gospel Gangsters was that album. And like you said, back then it wasn't you log on to a Spotify and can access, countless CHH artists. It was, you had to get in a car. I know this sounds crazy, but you had to get in an automobile and drive to the Christian bookstore. And then, like you said, they had the island with the little CD players that, and the cheap headphones on there, and they had the demo copies. And for me, it was, I was looking for what caught my eye with cover art, and like, oh, well, this one might be good, so let me go try it out. They were in a totally different space than like every other Christian hip hop artist at that point, because they were so close to what the mainstream was doing.
Right. And if you and until probably the last few years, I didn't even really know much about their debut album, Gang Affiliated, because like I said, we're out here in Oregon where I live. Really, your Christian hip-hop, when I was growing up, was extremely limited to DC Talk. I found PID, T-Bone. I did discover T-Bone. But there was like a handful of artists or groups that I knew of. So, Gang Affiliated, when I finally discovered that album today, even though it was 94, can still hold up to anything that's being put out right now. Just the story, the way the story art goes, the content is just... That is how talented Mr. Solo and the Gospel Gangsters were as a group, is when you can go back and listen to something 20 plus years ago and it's still moving you. That shows you where the talent level was that they were at.
Well, not only did they have the sound, but the imagery was there. I mean, if you go back and watch their videos, I mean, they're in lowriders, they're with hydraulics. They have the same imagery as far as like the clothing that they wore, and just that presence that they portrayed. Now, and the thing about it is we know,
right,
it wasn't just a smart marketing ploy that they were doing, right? I mean, this is the life that they came from, and they found a way to hold on to that and blend it with this faith that they found. And they were very confident and convicted in sharing that gospel, and doing it with the people that they've always known, I'm grateful that we were able to, find artists like Gospel Gangsters, and then some of the ones that you and I are going to talk about. You've already mentioned some of them. I was the same way. I dabbled with T-Bone. Obviously, my parents, they were okay with DC Talk. There were some of these other ones like Gospel Gangsters that there was some eyebrows raised. We'll say it that way. But man,
yeah, did you bring home the Grape Tree Records album?
Oh, dude, Grape Tree, man. Because at that time, No Limit was huge. And I was rocking that
Right.
Master P, Ghetto D, and almost everything that No Limit put out. And they're putting out like 10 albums a week, so it was everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And then when Grape Tree got going, they had the intent of being that Christian version of No Limit, right? They were putting out a lot of projects.
Exactly.
They had some of the flashier cover art, so it caught your attention. Not always, you can't say that they were always the greatest artist, but there are some really good projects that came out of those Grape Tree years, including artists like Lil Rascal, New Wine. Man, there was one group out in New Orleans, man, FTF. They had an album called Fireproof. And if you liked that No Limit sound, that was an album to have. So, yeah, man, Grape Tree. And then, and here's what's kind of crazy, because you and I, obviously over the past couple of years have had these discussions, and we've talked about the artists that we listen to. And that a little bit in the late 90s, but for sure the early 2000s, man, like that was a sweet spot for me personally, because you had a few different labels that were doing some really good stuff. Goatee, Toby Mac's label was starting to sign artists like No the Verbs. You had Grits on Goatee, and then one of my all-time favorites is John Rubin. So you had, a good lineup that was building at Goatee, but then you had Syntax Records and you had Uprock, which Uprock was a division of Tooth and Nail Records. If people are familiar with, the indie rock, Christian indie rock label Tooth and Nail. So they had a division that was meant for hip hop, and that was Uprock. And on Uprock, you have easily my favorite artist in CHH, and that is like the Deep Space 5 crew. Which Deep Space 5, they're like the Wu-Tang of CHH, man. It's a super group made up of individual, solo artists and groups, including Mars Ill, which Man-Child of Mars Ill is my all-time favorite MC. You had Listener from the Lab Click. You had DJ Manuel as part of there. At the time he was going by Plato, but now he's known as Crumb. Putting out the stuff with Theory Has It, that Crumb. He was Plato then. Right. He was part of Deep Space 5 and Ilharmonics. Yeah, man. For me, is very boom bap. Solid boom bap production, but man, the lyricism during that time is what I loved, man. If you are someone who, really pays attention to wordplay and delivery, these guys had it, man. At that point, they were on par, lyrically with the mainstream. Right. I felt, you still just need the overall package to be a little bit better to really compete. And then you go to Syntax Records, and you had artists like Red Cloud and Sackcloth Fashion, and another one of my favorite guys. He's known as Jeremiah Dirt now, but he was just going by Dirt then, part of Shadow of the Locust. Another very boom bap style rapper, and Uprock and Syntax both had really good rosters. They were a lot different than Grapetree, because Grapetree was still going at that point. But more that backpack underground vibe with these labels. But man, like I said, I mean, I love the quality, and that's why, like at the beginning of this year, like it did my heart so good, because we got a new EP from John Rubin, and we got a new single for the first time in like 16 years from Mars Ill, Win-Win. Man, I could go on for days, dude, but I know it seemed like maybe Win-Win was kind of an introduction of sorts for you to Mars Ill. What'd you think of it?
Right. Very solid. I actually was introduced to Deep Space Five, the group, by my pastor a couple years ago. So I've discovered Crumb and all those guys. And that, like you said, if you're a lyricist fan, definitely guys you need to listen to. My pastor didn't really push Mars Ill. I guess he's not a big fan of him. But yeah, definitely. I've noticed, you talk about John Rubin putting the EP out, Mars Ill was single, we had Crumb, he released an album. These guys that we've grown up with are starting to bring back the music. We got a couple other people. I heard after Mr. Solo passed away, they released a single with New Wine. I don't know if you heard that one.
I have not heard the single yet. I need to take a listen though.
It's on YouTube. It's not on any streaming service. But that came out, and apparently there was a rumor that he was going to collab with Lecrae on a single, I think. So these OGs are starting to come back again. So we tie into what this whole point of this podcast was getting the younger guys to notice, go back and look at your roots of the music and see how the genre really started and the work that was put in. And now, and kind of going off of that, somebody we haven't mentioned either is Pettidee, and he's been putting music out.
Yeah. And guys, we were looking at how are we going to feature a song in this month's episode. We're not going to break it down because there'd be no point in us doing it. But we are going to feature one.
I don't think Pettidee needs any advice from us.
Right. So we are going to feature one of Pettidee's songs here in a minute. But man, yeah, Pettidee's another one of those guys, man, that he has carved out a long career, and part of what he does is that he has a very unique sound. His vocal is very unique, and I think that's one of the major positives that he has going for him. I can remember, he's a guy that I would grab, his projects. That was kind of like it was him and kind of T-Bone during that time for me, and I can still remember, grabbing his and just hearing that raspiness, that kind of, that deep vocal, and being like, oh, okay. Man, it reminded me of, what was his name? Fiend, that was on No Limit. He had that same kind of vocal. And so I was like, okay, let's check him out. Like, was Pettidee one of the guys that you found out your way? Because I think he's from Florida, right? So.
Yeah, he wasn't. I don't think I remember really listening to him much. Later on, I did, but it wasn't when I was growing up. Not really much that I was listening to.
Okay, well, part of the reason that I said let's play one of Pettidee's songs, we've been able to get connected with him, and one thing that we've learned if you follow him on social media or anything was that. Literally the week before Mr. Solo passed away, Pettidee and him were messaging back and forth. He put these screenshots up on his Twitter account, and they were talking about, working on music together. So it's disappointing that we did not get to see that happen. I feel like, because
Yeah, you hear these stories now about, hey, we were going to work on this, and then this person was going to work with Mr. Solo, and this person is like, man, what people missed out on is just, I mean, obviously the music's still there that he did before, but working with some of these newer artists, collaborating with them would have been a real treat, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Especially because they, I think they both have found a way to just evolve their sound and remain relevant. I don't think that Pettidee necessarily gets as much credit as he deserves either by any means, but if you guys aren't listening to him, go and check him out. I mean, I know he got a little bit of, I think, a bump in just people's awareness of him because he did work with Poetics last year, I believe. But he's a guy that, he's been out here and he's been grinding for years and really built up this CHH space. So, I think people are saying give people their flowers while they're here to appreciate them, right? And I don't want to go necessarily even that far, but I'm just saying we need to appreciate these guys who stuck it out whenever CHH it wasn't easy to be a CHH artist, right? Like, I mean, we talk about how hip hop in general started off as a sub genre in music, right? And it's grown to where it's the biggest genre now. So you'd have to say that, like, back in the 90s, Christian hip hop wasn't even a subgenre. It was more of a niche, right?
It was definitely
and now it's evolved into a subgenre status, and it's because of what these artists did to push it forward and to help gain that credibility. So, if you guys have not heard Pettidee, we love that we get a chance to feature his song "I'm On It" here on the podcast. And if you stick around after the song, we do have an industry insider interview this month. It is with the plug of CHH, is Erinn Knight. Definitely was exciting to talk to her, so stick around for that interview as well. Nate, you got any final thoughts?
I'm just, reminiscing about all this stuff and music that we grew up listening to, the history of CHH, of Christian hip hop. Just, I was really excited to do this, and unfortunately the circumstances were just terrible, losing Mr. Solo, but it's nice to be able to do this and kind of get some recognition for the guys that help pave the way for the artists now.
For sure. Like I said, guys, stick around, listen to the Erinn Knight interview. But right now, we're going to play you out of this segment with "I'm On It" by Pettidee. It's time for the 520 podcast song breakdown, sponsored by
Show Me Christ Records.
Heaven. My dog got killed with a Mac 11. Left my homeboy in the street with $200 J's on his feet. Choppers on deck, let paint the town. That blood red and they laying down, and them bodies cold and won't make a sound. That Ferris wheel go round and round on that homicide. That triple K, them warning shots, I make a body lay under white sheets on that concrete. Get Michael Brown like every day, like every way. They'll do it to us. Broad day, they'll do it to us. Walk away, they'll do it to us. And ain't nothing we can say, we'll do it to us. So when I can't, my father can. Wake my people up, take stand. You say, Bo, I'm a running man. Dark D killers and Dr. Clan. man who won't duck, the man who wanna take my crown. Fight for it, it going down. My God, my fault, my hood sound. There's truth in the booth, 200 round. Yo, through the valley I'm walking. I ain't on my lonely. Know the devil he on me. Ain't got nothing on me. Can't stop me, that's my homie. Haters hating, they know it. We greedy, all day, every day. I'm on it, on it. I'm on it, on it. Turn me up and I'm on it, on it. I'm on it today. I'm on it, on it. Turn me up and I'm on it, on it. All the way and I'm on it, on it. All day, every day. Let your homeboy testify. Mama died, I still cry. Big homie died, my auntie died, and I lost my cousin to suicide. All back to back, I'm like, God, please. All these tears I can't see. Chest so heavy I can't breathe. My life, it ain't been all ease. Ain't all grease, ain't all cheese, ain't all grins, ain't all wins. Hold my faith, try not to sin. Paul bearing these coffins. Out in, walk in. God help me up and I ain't fall. All in, boss out. No dough for the paint, your raw dog. OG, Debo, live back, G-code. Click, clack, and I pop, and I sit back and I reload. Them T-rockin' that body. Bass banging like shotty. Whole dealer, no killer. I shoot to heal your body, girl. Through the valley I'm walking. I ain't on my lonely. Know the devil he on me. Ain't got nothing on me. Can't stop me, that's on my homie. Haters hating, they know it. Keep it greedy. All day, every day. I'm on it, on it. I'm on it, on it. Turn me up and I'm on it, on it. I'm on it today. I'm on it, on it. Turn me up and I'm on it, on it. All the way and I'm on it, on it. All day, every day. Turn me up and I'm on it, on it. Turn me up and I'm on it, on it. Turn me up and I'm on it, on it. Turn me up and I'm on it, on it. All day, every day. Turn me up and I'm on it, on it. Turn me up and I'm on it, on it. Turn me up and I'm on it, on it. Turn me up and I'm on it, on it. I'm on it, on it.
Hey guys, what's up? This is Eric with FiveTwenty Collective and the FiveTwenty Collective podcast. I want to talk to you about Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way possible to make a podcast. Let me break it down for you. 1, it's free. That's right, no cost to use Anchor. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will also distribute your podcast for you. So if you want to get on platforms like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and many, many more, then it's really, really easy, guys. You just set up an Anchor account at anchor.fm. You can also make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Again, make money, no minimum listeners. You're not going to find that anywhere else. It's everything you need to make a podcast, and it's all in one place. So go right now and download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. And make sure you let them know you heard it on FiveTwenty Collective podcast. Welcome to this month's Industry Insider interview, brought to you officially by
Bookkeeper247.com.
All right, guys, what's up? Shout out to the Bookkeeper247.com for sponsoring this Industry Insider interview. As always, make sure you hit up the Bookkeeper247.com for great CHH content. And joining me right now on the Trackstars Podcasting Network phone line, man, she does so much behind the scenes. I'm excited to talk to her and just get some of that wisdom. I think, if you ask around, she is the plug that maybe holds this whole thing together. I'm being joined by Erinn Knight. What's going on, ma'am?
What's up? That's funny. The plug.
Right?
The plug. I love that.
Well,
yep.
Well, let's talk about it. How did you become this plug, this go-to person, within Christian hip hop?
So I can't honestly say I know for sure. I could tell just like a quick backstory how I got involved, but
yeah.
I used to work in rock music, so I was a rock manager, and I did like a couple of terms on the Vans Warped Tour with my band. We started throwing shows in Atlanta. That putting out a lot of events, like tiny events though, like 100 capacity shows, 150 capacity shows. Just like hanging out with my friends, like really loving the music scene in Atlanta. It felt like God was telling me I needed to move to America. And I was scared because I had spent 5 years building this thing. I had poured like so much energy, equity, like love, sweat, and tears, including money. And we had started a label, toured overseas, like we had done a lot, but we still really weren't making any money. We were throwing everything back into the band, and so I left from them, worked in film for a little bit here in Atlanta, and then I'd say a couple months into working in the film industry, I found this kid online named Caleb Mitchell. And I wasn't really into hip-hop. Again, I came up in the rock scene. Even though I'm in Atlanta, like, I love OG hip-hop. Like, at that time, it was mostly, like, Outkast, Ludacris, but I was not really into, like, the street rap that was going on in the city. And, like I guess it was, like, 2015, 2016, I wasn't really into it. So, Xavier Omar, my favorite R&B singer, he reposted Caleb on SoundCloud, which is my favorite site to still discover music. And it was a song called SOS, and it gave me chills. And so I was like, man, I got to reach out to this kid.
Awesome. That's what's up. Well, I know that one thing that I love is being able to follow you on Twitter, because you throw out these little gems that just like hit home for me. So before I dive into maybe asking a little bit about that, tell people, where can they follow you to make sure they're getting the latest from what's going on with you?
For sure. I'm at the Erinn Effect on all socials. So that TheErinNNAffect. I know effect is grammatically correct, but I don't care. It's art. So, and I like the acronym T. But don't forget the 2 N's. It's Erinn with 2 N's, because my mom knew I was going to be doubly awesome, so she added an extra N to my name.
There you go. There you go. Well, so whenever I'm following you, I see how open you are to people. And like, even whenever you go onto like your website, you know, the very first thing that's there is like, hey, ask me anything. Like what brought you, or what instilled that approach in you to just be like, hey, I want to help people however I can. I'm going to put out, you know, the stuff I learn onto my social medias. I'm going to make myself available.
I think, I don't know, I've always liked people my entire life. I'm like the most people person you'll ever meet. Even though I think I'm like pretty much an introvert. I'm like an outward-facing introvert. I have to be alone and in silence most of the day, but when I'm out, like, I really just want to talk to people, love on people. But so like my whole life I've been a people person. But I think being a woman in music, especially starting out as like a black woman in rock music and then moving over to like hip hop and being in the Atlanta scene but being saved, like all of those things have I've always been like swimming upstream, I guess, like going against the current. And so I never could find the answers that I needed. Like, bless God that we live in the internet era. I would Google everything to death. I would pay to go to conferences and like listen to industry greats. I was always on YouTube watching videos. But even when I first started in like 2011, 2012, the internet has grown in information like exponentially. So, for me, when I was in high school and middle school, there was a website called Ask Jeeves. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And so, like, Ask Jeeves stopped serving me probably my junior year in high school. But, like, 7th, 8th, 9th grade year, I was always like, what's the critical mass of whatever? You know, like, just random questions, because I was just so fascinated that I could just like literally search random things. And this is before Google was the power system that it was. If I'm not mistaken, I think Ask Jeeves was bought by Google. So yeah, I just was fascinated with that. But then when I started getting into like more specific to me questions, like I played basketball in high school and almost went like for it in college. Like, what's the what's the restriction on NCAA players when it comes to drinking caffeine? Like, stuff for me, I couldn't find the answers to, you know? And so I think that that's always just fed into my need for knowledge. I just love learning stuff. So then transitioning into the music scene, I felt like I was always looking for a mentor or somebody just to ask simple questions to, like, can you please explain publishing to me? Like, again, like, I just read what this lawyer said online. I just watched this video and I'm really confused. Can you explain publishing to me? And so, yeah, I had to learn a lot of stuff the hard way. And in my life, my desire is that, like, if I can make a portion of my hardship a little bit easier on somebody else, then it was worth it. You know what I'm saying? So, like, if my struggle can allow me to help other people, then that makes my struggle worth it. So I think that's where it comes from, like my love for Ask Jeeves, and then my desire to empower people to be the best version of themselves. I think I probably would have been a lot further faster if I had somebody to answer the questions that I had, but I think it allowed me to find my purpose and my niche, because now I'm a knowledge base for a whole side of the internet or a whole section of people in Atlanta. They're like, oh, just hit up Erinn. She's going to know the answer to that. Or she's going to know somebody who can answer that. So if it had been easier for me, I would have never cared so much about people. But I think because it was so hard for me, it made me empathetic to the plight of people who don't have a place to turn.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, we see the fruits of that labor that you put into it. Because, I mean, I'm constantly seeing artists that have, you know, been able to, you know, take advantage of, like, those conference calls that you offer. And they're like, man, I just learned so much from Erinn, you know, that I'm going to go out and apply right now. And you can hear, like, the excitement in their voice. How is it for you spending that time with, like, these indie artists that are really trying to find their way?
It's super exciting for me. One, because I feel like I'm allowing somebody to skip steps. And I used to have this, like, pinned thread, like, on my Twitter that was like, I don't want to manage you. Don't even ask me, but I can help you skip steps. And that was something for me. Like, I had to run up 2 steps, run back down 3 steps, run up 1 step, and it just took me forever to get certain places. And now I feel like I'm allowing people to take 2 or 3 steps at a time just by having a conversation with me. So I really enjoy it. I like teaching again, like I said. And then it's something that I was doing already with my friends for free. Like, my website was born out of frustration because everybody that did music would call me and be like, how do I do this? What do I do about this? And it took up my whole day. Like, again, I used to nanny, so I did that for 10 years, all while working in music. So I had the freedom to pick up my phone, and I would just be frustrated because I'm like, somebody should be paying for this knowledge. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like I spent all the time to learn this and nobody's paying for it. So I started my website. I used to charge $20 for a call, and only a few people would call me, or people would email me like, yo, I don't really have $20. So again, after I started my website in 2015, 2016, I still was only getting, like, maybe, if I was lucky, 1 person a month buying a phone call with me. So now my prices are definitely higher, but I have people calling me nonstop because they believe in the value that I bring, only because of who I work with. And not that I've grown that much in the last 2 years, but the amount of artists that have passed through my fingers in the last 3 or 4 years has grown exponentially. So now people are like, okay, even though I don't want to spend this money, some people are like that, I don't want to spend the money, but I think it's worth it. And I tell people when they get on the phone call, I said, either you're going to get off this call and figure out a way to hire me, or you're going to get off the call and be frustrated that you can't. You're not going to get off the call and not feel like you got value. And that's something that I'm so confident in, which is why my prices are set the way that they are, because I just know that I have so much value to bring to people. And so it's exciting for me to share it. And it's exciting that I can finally make money off of it now, because I feel like it's worth monetizing, you know? Like, I spent 10 years acquiring this knowledge, and you get it in a 35-minute phone call with me.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And once again, guys, I am joined on the Trackstars Podcasting Network phone line by Miss Erinn Knight. You know, you talked about the manager aspect, and I didn't initially have this in mind, but I want to follow up on that. You know, I think I've seen a lot of artists like on Twitter, they'll just randomly like, I need a manager, you know. I think they just hit that point where they're maybe frustrated. And I think one thing about CHH is there's definitely a need for people kind of like behind the scenes in those type of roles. So, you know, not everyone can be an artist, even if we want to, right? What's your advice or your take on, say I'm one of those people that is like, man, maybe I should get into managing, you know, like what would be your advice for them?
Yes, yes, if you want to be a manager, please hit me up. We need more managers, please, so I can start pointing people to the right people. Yeah. I would say if you want to be a manager, you have to be a learner, but you have to be super sacrificial, right? So not that in order to be a manager, you have to be saved, but I feel like Christ shows us so many managerial aspects, like seriously, and being a parent. If you're a parent, I'm not a parent yet, but I've been a nanny for years, and I see so many similarities. Well, I'm not a nanny anymore, but I was a nanny for a decade. I see so many similarities between my artists and children, and not that they're children, but being an artist manager is a thankless job. You will do all of the work and get none of the reward, and then your artist will still be mad at you that the reward didn't turn out as good as they wanted it to. So, this is not for the faint at heart. I've been working in music for almost 10 years. I think it'll be 10 years in September. So, no, this is not something that, I just started making a full-time living off of it last year. I've always at least had a part-time job. Most of the time, 2 full-time jobs, because I'm fronting a lot of the money because I wanted to empower my artists and I would believe in stuff. So if you're looking to manage somebody this week and then next year y'all are going to be making money, this is definitely not what you want. But if you're a hustler, if you're a learner, if you really like seeing, creating something out of nothing, and if you really like loving people well to discover what they're really put here to do, I would say, yeah, for sure. Being a manager is amazing. I think even there's so many artists right now who are trying to be artists, like you said, and they really need to be a manager. There's so many producers right now who are only trying to be producers who should be also being managers. If you've been in the scene and you kind of see how it goes, I think there's something, I get hit up by guys all the time. They're like, man, I've been making music for 10 years and I've only got 1,000 streams, but I've tried this, and this, and I'm working really hard on this, and this, and I listen to music and I'm like, it's not that great, but your ideas are phenomenal, or your ideas aren't that great, but I think if you were to partner with somebody, you'd probably be a great manager. But people get offended by that. You know, they're like, no, I'm trying to be an artist. And it's that's dope. That's dope. Even when I first started, I thought I only wanted to be a manager. But then when I started realizing that people were referring to me based off the proximity that I was to an artist, I was like, no, I'm my own person. If this artist wasn't here, I would still be successful. And so I think that's something for me, as I grow, whether I manage somebody or not, people are starting to identify, okay, it is Erinn who's, and also God, but it's Erinn who's bringing these results forward. And it just so happens to be that she's partnering with phenomenal artists, so it's accelerating their growth, But I don't ever personally want to be relegated to an artist, so I feel like artists or managers don't have to be relegated just to that. If you're a producer, you don't have to just be a producer. But yeah, I think a lot of artists should pivot. Pivots are so important for careers.
And I think one of the interesting things about being involved in a subgenre like Christian hip hop is that compared to some other, genres where, they're established and you know what it is. And so a rock band can just be concerned about what they're doing. I feel like there's a lot of us that are in CHH that we genuinely want to see, the whole genre grow. And so one thing I always like to ask, and I'd love to get your thoughts on it, being in the position that you're in, is what do you see going on in CHH, and what would you like to see happen in order to keep pushing it forward? Yeah,
I think that Christian hip hop is in a really good place. I was never part of the like golden era or anything like that. Like I said, I just got involved in like 3.5 years ago, and I had just heard about it like 4 years ago. So I never got to live in like, you know, a lot of people are like, whatever, this is the golden era. I have heard, you know, like there's a, like, what's the guy, like I've heard Tunnel Rats before. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, like the first project I ever heard from Lecrae was Anomaly, but so most of my understanding of the genre has been retroactively learning and then just hearing from people. But I think it's in a phenomenal state. I think anybody who's looking down on the genre is probably not listening to it. Like, a lot of the up-and-comers are really just doing some incredible things. Nobody's scared to be them, or most people aren't scared to be themselves right now. So you can have somebody like Curtis Hoppy, who's literally like prophesying in his music, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can have ones like that, and then you can have ones like Cannon, who are talking about like the street life that he lived, like about his cousins getting shot, you know what I'm saying? Still talking about like people that he knows dealing with drug issues. So it's like, for those two people to be able to coexist, and not just coexist, but tour together, I think stuff like that just shows like how dope the scene is. And then you have somebody like RG and like Tommy Royale, who are doing Latin music in the scene and like unapologetic, but still talking about like their relationship with girls. RG talking about like his family story and his father getting deported, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think, and then even on the fringes of the scene, people who are just kind of dipping in and out, somebody like Caleb, you know, like getting signed to Def Jam, and then like just talking about like really like tough stuff, especially in this new music that he has coming out. So I think that the scene is in such a good place. And then you have people like Aaron Cole, who can do like R&B, and then he's doing worship music and then still rapping. So I think people are just as creative as ever. So I think it's in a very cool place. I think that something that's really been like a personal mission of mine over the last year or so, just because I have so many people who I know and so many people are like passing through Atlanta or live in Atlanta, I've really been on like a unification type tip, you know, like I really want people to be unified. Like, why do y'all have beef but y'all have never really had a conversation? Or why do you think this person doesn't like you? Like, I'm very like head on with confrontation, because I feel like confrontation shows people where you stand, and then it ultimately leads to understanding. I think people don't like confrontation because it's uncomfortable, but like uncomfortable things lead to ideal outcomes. So, yeah, I've just been, like, really pushing people, like, have that conversation, like, come over to my house, like, let's talk to bro, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I think that that's something that could grow in this scene, like, unification, but I feel like I see it happening. I see a lot of guys reaching out to each other, hashing stuff out. I see a lot of older guys coming back and being like, hey, like, to the younger guys, like, we haven't done well with you guys. I see a lot of women stepping up, which is what I'm really excited about. I think, for me, the blessing of not being brought up in the Christian hip-hop scene is that I never knew that I wasn't supposed to do anything. So when people were looking at me like, are you doing this? I didn't realize that it wasn't supposed to be done by women, so to speak. So I think that's another place that Christian hip-hop could grow, is inviting women in, but also amplifying women's voices. There's so many dope women in the world, you know what I'm saying? Like, I heard my pastor say this one time, like, a woman is like the neck of the body, like, we're what causes it to turn and swivel. We help you see what's going on, because without your neck, you can't see danger or see a new road or whatever. So I think that for a while, Christian hip hop has had tunnel vision because they didn't allow their neck to steer them, you know? And so I think empowering women's voices right now, whether it be on the artist side or like hiring more executives, like, people don't really know how much women are doing for this scene. Like, for instance, like Rick, she works for Sony. She's based in Nashville, and she's just a phenomenal business mind. So she's a genius. Like, if you can pay her to consult, if you're a bigger artist, I would say pay her right now, because she's a genius. But she's the reason that, like, so many of the Sony artists who, like, have, even, like, she works with Kirk's camp, like, a lot of different camps, but she's such a, like, big part of Christian music, especially on the, like, more urban side. There's people like, I don't know, I don't want to start naming names because then somebody's going to get offended. Obviously, like, Wande, I love her. her music has grown so much in the last, like, 2 or 3 years. I just started managing her in, like, December, but we've been friends for years. And she's a young mogul. We started working together on a business tip, and then it just turned into a friendship, and then it turned into, like, now music management. But, yeah, I think that, and then I think CHH could get better at being less entitled. Again, I'm in Atlanta, so I'm not relegated just to Christian hip hop. I make my money all sorts of ways. Like, I throw parties and events. I have liquor sponsors come in and do stuff. One of my artists is like the Grill King of Atlanta, so we throw like grill parties. So I'm in all different scenes, you know, like I've worked with beauty and fashion influencers. So I think I have a decent scope of understanding about the way that the world works. And only in Christian hip hop do I have people DM me like, hey, can you do this for me? Or, hey, sis, like, whatever. Like, literally big in my bio, it says, do not DM me. Because I feel like that's, just because you can shoot a DM does not mean you have access to me. So I feel like the proper means of conversation is reach out through a friend and see if you can get connected, or shoot me an email, right? I would prefer the email because that's just a way to do it. But, yeah, in CHH, people are just very entitled. They want to be put on by affiliation, or they want to say that they're talking about God, therefore they deserve a slot. If I believe that we serve the creator of the universe, the greatest to ever do it and who will ever do it, then why are we not doing our personal best to be the best? And so I feel like that's something in Christian hip hop, people won't push themselves because they have this expectation, well, I'm doing it for God, so it's okay. And they're not really open to feedback. People will send me their thoughts and ask for my feedback, but they don't really want it. And I know that, so I'll give them like, oh, this is cool, that's interesting. But with my artists, I think the reason that I thrive with them is because I'm brutally honest. I'm like, no, this sounds like a Travis Scott rip, or that bar is super corny, you could try harder. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, that's the brutal honesty that I have. And I think that Christian hip hop needs more of that, but I think part of the entitlement will subside when people start educating themselves. You know, it's so much easier to succeed in Christian hip hop, and I don't say that as a cop out, but if you can get decent album artwork, if you're a solid human and you can like talk to people and network, then you can usually get places that most people wouldn't. And in the regular hip-hop scene in Atlanta, you could have, like, I can throw a rock and hit 15 amazing rappers right now. Like, amazing rappers. But, like, they have good skill. They could have the dopest music videos and still nobody's paying attention to them. Christian hip-hop, you only need to be, like, kind of cool and like make sure that you're talking to the right people, and you could start, you know, like opening up shows and getting on tours and stuff like that. But I just think there's an education aspect that's missing. I think people need to stop being entitled and put their head down and work, you know. And I think there's just so many like free resources. So I would love to see that grow in Christian hip hop.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one thing that you're that I'm kind of hearing out of what you're saying is also like something that I'm really big on is I feel like there's this level of accountability within CHH that needs to go up, both in people that's willing to hold other people accountable in the right way, and then on the other side of it, being willing to accept that accountability at the same time. So definitely,
for sure.
Definitely stuff that's important, and I hope to see. So I know you mentioned the social medias. What about the website?
So my website, I guess I should plug that, right? My website is managemeco.com. So manage me is what everybody always asks me to do. So I just named my website that. So it's managemeco.com. And you can find me there, or you can look at my social media and it'll be in my bio.
That's what's up, guys. Go and hit the site up. It is a valuable tool. It's awesome that it's available, so support it. I mean, nothing else, support it. Man, Erinn, we appreciate you so much jumping on and just, you know, taking the time to give us these, you know, just this knowledge and these pearls of wisdom. Hopefully people can take it and apply it. You know, I'd love to maybe, you know, get you back on the podcast down the road as well.
For sure. I won't rant as long.
No, you're good. I love it. So
I've been by myself a lot. I'm ranting.
No, it's awesome. It's awesome. Well, we appreciate you. We are thankful for your time. Guys, make sure you go follow the social media accounts, hit up the website, all that great stuff. And, just really support what Erinn and the team are doing, for artists, for the culture, all the above. So this is the Industry Insider interview here on the FiveTwenty Collective podcast, and we will see you guys on the next pod.